In the 1850s, the Prussian educational system demanded an exhausting routine from its rural instructors. One such teacher, a 39-year-old man, spent his days drilling schoolboys in basic arithmetic, calligraphy, and gymnastics. He held no advanced degree. He possessed no academic standing. In an era when scholars established themselves through constant publication, this teacher had not yet produced a single page of recognized mathematical research. His father had originally planned a stable government career for him, enrolling him to study law and finance. But the young man was already privately obsessed with mathematics, a conflict that derailed his formal education. He spent 4 years at the University of Bonn, drinking and fencing, ignoring his required courses entirely. He eventually left the institution broken, without a degree, and seemingly without a future. By abandoning the traditional academic path of his youth, he appeared to have traded a scientific legacy for a life of rural obscurity. Seeking a way forward, he enrolled in a teacher training academy in Münster. A chance encounter with lectures on elliptic functions, an advanced and difficult field, provided the first real focus for his private study. For the next 14 years, he was a ghost in the world of mathematics. He taught introductory subjects in remote provincial schools, while using his nights to develop complex theories in total isolation, far from the reach of academic journals or libraries. This solitary pace was at odds with the prevailing image of the mathematician. The discipline had long been defined by the prodigy myth, the idea that significant discoveries are exclusively the work of the very young, burning through their brilliance before they reach 30. By the time he turned 40, that window was considered closed. To the academic community of the mid-19th century, a middle-aged teacher with 0 credentials was no longer a candidate for greatness. To the major universities in Berlin and Paris, he was effectively non-existent. There was no reason to believe that one of the century's most capable logical minds was currently correcting grade school penmanship in a small Prussian town. In 1854, a manuscript titled On the Theory of Abelian Functions arrived at Europe's leading mathematical journal. It offered a solution to a problem that had frustrated researchers for years, written with a depth that took the community by surprise. The response was immediate. Within the academy, there was a frantic search to identify the author, a man whose name appeared on no university faculty list and in no previous journal. The teacher from Brownsburg was suddenly awarded an honorary doctorate and, shortly after, a permanent professorship at the University of Berlin. He was 49 years old when he delivered his first university lecture, an age at which many of his contemporaries were entering the final stages of their careers. His presence in Berlin challenged the assumption that mathematical genius was a perishable resource of the young. It proved that a career built in patient, decades-long silence could still reach the highest levels of the profession. Weierstrass began his tenure by identifying a flaw in the foundations of calculus. Since the time of Newton and Leibniz, mathematicians had relied on the idea of variables flowing or moving toward a limit, concepts based on physical intuition rather than formal logic. To fix this, he rebuilt the subject on a purely arithmetic foundation. He introduced the epsilon-delta definition of a limit, using a rigid boundary of inequalities to pin down the behavior of a function at a specific point. Under this definition, nothing is in motion. By treating the limit as a static relationship between numbers, he removed the need for the vague, infinitely small quantities that had haunted the calculus for 2 centuries. This new, rigid logic allowed him to construct functions that broke all traditional rules. In 1872, he presented a function that was continuous at every point, meaning its graph was an unbroken line, yet it had no derivative anywhere, meaning it possessed no smooth slope. It is an infinitely jagged line. No matter how much you magnify the curve, it never smooths out into a straight line. Every tiny segment contains new, sharp corners, creating a shape that was impossible to visualize using traditional geometry. The establishment was outraged. Charles Hermite described these types of functions as a lamentable scourge, and Henri Poincaré argued they were an affront to common sense. But the logic was undeniable. By proving that human intuition could be systematically wrong, Weierstrass made his clinical, arithmetic rigor the only reliable foundation for the future of the field. In his final years, the solitary researcher became a dedicated mentor. He was known for a radical openness with his ideas, sharing them freely with his students. In 1870, Weierstrass met Sofia Kovalevskaya, a brilliant young mathematician who was barred from university admission because she was a woman. Weierstrass tutored her privately for 4 years, providing the same high-level training his university students received. His advocacy eventually helped her become the first woman in modern Europe to earn a doctorate in mathematics. His influence spread through what became the Berlin School. Because he preferred teaching to publishing, many of his most important breakthroughs were first disseminated in the papers and textbooks of his students. Unlike the many prodigies whose careers were cut short by illness or tragedy, Weierstrass lived for 81 years. He was a slow-burning presence who defined the field through endurance rather than speed. His life suggests that the trajectory of a great mind doesn't have to be a sudden, short-lived burst. It can be a long, deliberate arc built through the patience of a teacher.